Alright, hello once again. This is Jeff Scott of Rankin Technical College, and as part of the Rankin Technical College AWD, or Application and Website Development Program, I have been building a mythical website, or I should say a website for a mythical gym, even though I found out there is a gym called Jacked and Jilled. I'm still creating one as though there wasn't one. So far I've created a couple pages. This was the home page, a little busy maybe. This was the About page, probably a lot less busy. But in the last lecture, because I've done about 10 or 11 of these so far, and in the last lecture I talked about what we're going to be doing next. And I've got a list of stuff here. But what I've decided to do is to back up, and hopefully you'll understand why in just a couple minutes. Before we do make our current website responsive, which I am going to do, and I'm going to do next, I decided to create, I've got lectures 1 through 11 done. I'm now going to create lecture 0. All right? Why? Well, I thought to myself, if you're someone who is either just watching these videos or someone who is in my class, my AWD1000 Web Development Technologies class, how do you get started? I mean, there's so much out there. As an example, if I come out here and I go into Google and I type in HTML, I get what? Is that 25 billion, 270 million results? You know, how about HTML5, which is what we're working with now? Well, that cuts it down to 1,420 million. All right, how about CSS? Not sure why it gave it to me like that, but let's just go back to Google again. Well, oh, there we go. 591 million hits. How about if I narrow it down to CSS3? 42 million hits. Still a lot. I could do the same thing with JavaScript and with jQuery, etc. All right. Now, the books that we're using for this class are Muroc books. All right. I'm not going to bring them up. I already have done that. But the Muroc HTML5 and CSS3 4th edition book is a great book because it's just chock full of information. The Muroc JavaScript and jQuery 3rd edition book is the same way. All right. But I thought to myself, what if somebody told me, what if somebody said, you know what, Jeff, I want to teach myself. I don't want to take a class. I don't want to do anything. Or I'm going to take a class, but I first want some beginning training. Could you give me 2 or 3 resources that you would recommend? So I decided to do that in this video. The first one, and I've gone through this before, but you're going to hear me ring this bell over and over and over again, and that is to go out to the w3schools.com website. Now, you don't need to put all that in. You can just put in w3schools.com. All right? If you go out there, here's the home page, but notice under tutorials, they have HTML tutorials, CSS tutorials, Bootstrap tutorials, JavaScript tutorials, jQuery tutorials. All right? These tutorials, again, are just filled with information and code examples that you are basically invited to use in your own websites. I've already done that on the Jacked and Jilled website. I've used a bunch of this stuff. All right? So that's the first place I'd go to. The second one, and this may surprise you, is if you go out to, again, maybe make it bigger. Whoops. Oh boy. Come on. There we go. Developer.mozilla.org. Don't worry about the rest of the stuff that's in there. Just concentrate on what I have here that's in the blue. All right. Now, why that? Well, if we go to technologies, notice what they have here. HTML, CSS, JavaScript, which again is the heart and soul of this class. If I go out to HTML, all right, there are again tutorials, there's references. All of the elements are covered in here in alphabetic order, all 100 to 120 elements. So you get examples, you get code, etc. All right, so those are the first two. I'm going to put them up one more time. The first one, again, is the W3 Schools website. The second one is the Mozilla website. All right. The third one, and I'm giving you only 3. All right. One thing, I thought I put this out there already. I may have or I may not have. I go out and use this guy a lot. His name is Brad Traversy. If I go to his YouTube channel and I subscribe, what you're going to find is I have no idea how many videos he has. I don't know if I click here, if it tells you how many. I don't know. But virtually all of the videos here are web-oriented. Now, when I say virtually, notice he's got a Python. He's got some other stuff. He's a very interesting person. He's gone through a lot in his life. I'm not going to summarize it. I'm not going to say anything other than you may be interested in reading. He'll also do things like what makes a great programmer, etc. But one of the things that I'm sending out to my students is this. And this is a list of several of his videos, the title, and then where it is on YouTube. GitHub Crash Course, Visual Studio, Emmet, HTML Crash Course, CSS Crash Course, Flexbox in 20 minutes, CSS Grid Layout Crash Course, CSS3 Animation and Transition Crash Course, Building a Responsive HTML and CSS Template with Flexbox Grid, Building a Responsive Grid CSS Web Layout from Scratch, Bootstrap 4, JavaScript Fundamentals, jQuery Fundamentals. All right. Again, I would highly encourage you to go out and actually go out to his site, which is traversymedia.com. All right, so that's the third one that I'm going to put up there. So I've already shown you the first 2. I showed you W3 Schools, and I showed you Mozilla.org. So let's bring up the last one of the triad, so to speak, and that is Traversy Media. Now, the key thing to being successful in this field is not so much you going out and saying, oh, I'm going to memorize this. Don't memorize squat. All right, unless you do have a photographic memory, I've known people like that. But one of the key things is knowing where to look for things. And these are 3 terrific starting points. Okay, I'm just going to leave it at that. Now, last thing I'll say, though, is if you look here, welcome to Traversy Media. I would strongly recommend, here's some of his courses. He also has courses on Udemy. I'm taking this one right now, kind of a microcosm of the course that we're in. Modern HTML and CSS from the beginning. These are all web development courses. Here he is. He's from Boston. He's got a 7-year-old son who's autistic and is not verbal. I believe he's got a daughter also, yeah, and a wife. But he's a very interesting guy. I'd suggest that you follow him and even consider becoming a patron. He's got different ways of doing it. I think the cheapest is like about $10 a month or something like that. Yeah, these are savings, but free Udemy there. So if you pledge $10 a month or more, all right, you get every Udemy course that he's ever released And after 4 months, you get all of his, no, you get every new Udemy course. And after 4 months, you get every course. All right, that's what I'm going to do. Okay, so I don't want to go on any further than that in this particular thing. What got me to this point, just so you do know, and I'll end with this, is I said that what we're going to talk about right now is making our website responsive. That is what I'm going to go over in the next lecture. So I started to look, and doing this, we're going to have to start talking about CSS media queries and breakpoints. So I looked here, and I just put in CSS breakpoints, the 100% correct way to do CSS breakpoints. Okay, it's a good article. It's an interesting article. Media queries for common device breakpoints. The problem is, if I try to account for every kind of device there is, and this is just phones and computers, you can see how long this list is. So then I went out and found this. Another really good website, if you want to really learn just CSS, is css-tricks.com. So this is media queries for standard devices. And when you look here, he's got phones and handhelds, iPhones, Galaxy, Pixels, HTC, Windows phones, and he's got tablets, iPads, Galaxy, Nexus, etc., laptops, all right, and laptops in many ways, I guess, would encompass more than laptops. Wearable things, Apple Watch, etc., all right. But what I decided to do was to break this down, and I'm borrowing a page from Mr. Traversy's book here. And when I say book, I mean one of his lectures. And what I'm going to do is break this down and try to show you media queries from like a 35,000 foot view, and then we'll get into how we're going to take our website and make it responsive. So I'll be back with that shortly.